Before we go ahead and validate our cluster, we need to do a couple more things, and then we'll go ahead and work on our cluster. One thing is that we need to give the private adapter up here. These two things needs to be completed, and then we'll go ahead and create the shared disks using iSCSI initiators. And once these are completed, then we'll go ahead and run the validation of cluster. So let's go ahead and add adapters on both of the nodes. This is my node 1, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. Actually, let me turn it off, because in order to add hardware, virtual machines needs to be off. So I'll go ahead and open up my HyperV environment, go to virtual machine 1, go to settings, add hardware, and here it is, network adapter. Click on that, add. This network adapter we're adding because we want to have a communication between node 1 and node 2. This is private communication, so you don't need to do any settings. Once they are installed, then we're gonna go ahead and give them the static IP for their private communication. So click apply. Okay. Same with node 2. Add. Apply. Okay. Now in order to do the setting, we have to turn them on. So I'm gonna go ahead and start both nodes. Let's connect with node 1 and do the private adapter setting. And the IP address we're going to give these private adapters is this 192.168.2.2 and 3. I may change it because I may be using 2 and 3. Let's change it to 4 and 5. And then, as I said, we'll create shared disk, and then we'll go ahead and run the validation. We'll go ahead and connect with node 2 as well. These virtual machines are created on my laptop, so they don't have much memory. They're sharing very small memory, 1 gig each, so that's why they're a little slow. I'm gonna go ahead and log into that node 2. Node 1 is not up yet, but we can go ahead and do the setting on node 2. So what we're going to do is go to the network setting and give the static IP to the private adapter. Let's go ahead and log in to node 1. You can get to network adapter setting in a couple ways. Right here, it would show icon, and you can go open network sharing, or you can click on here and find network. well, it appeared right here. I'm gonna go ahead and right click and open network sharing, change adapter settings. Here is our new adapter, so we're gonna go ahead and right click on that, go to properties, go to IPv4 properties, and here we're gonna give IP address 168.2 and 4. Since it's gonna be a private IP and private communication, we don't need to give any other setting. Click OK, close, and close this. We're gonna do the same thing with node 2. Maybe I done with node 2. Yes, I just did node 2 actually. So we're gonna do the same thing on node 1. Go ahead, open network sharing. IPv4 properties, static IP 92.168.2, and we're going to give 5 to this one since we're already used 4. Click OK, close. Alright, so we have just completed this step. Next thing we're going to do is create the shared disk using iSCSI initiator. So we're going to go ahead and log into the machine that where you wanted to create the disk and present those disks to these two nodes. One thing I wanted to just mention here real quick, there are different ways that in organizations they create the disk and present to the nodes as a shared disk. There is a NAS, iSCSI initiator, and SAN. And the difference between iSCSI initiator and SAN is, in SAN usually the connectivity is tied to the fiber channel. The connectivity between hard disk and your shared nodes that's done via fiber channel. So but we're not going to do it here in your organization. Basic idea of creating disk and presenting disk to the nodes is exactly the same. So whether you do it iSCSI initiator or SAN, in SAN world they are not called disks, they are called LUNs, but basic idea again is the same. So I just thought that I should real quick mention that, because a lot of folks have this question that what's the difference between iSCSI. iSCSI is usually LAN connectivity between disk and the nodes, and SAN is fiber channel. That's the high level difference. So, and also it's called LUNs, not disks. Let's go ahead and create the disk on our domain controller. Since I only have 3 machines, I'm going to go ahead and create the disk on domain controller, and once the disks are created, I'm going to present those disks to node 1 and node 2, those shared disks. So let's log into that. We're going to go ahead and open Server Manager. And we're going to click on Files and Storage Services. If you don't have, once you click on iSCSI and open that, if you don't have the feature installed, iSCSI initiator feature, this is Windows feature, if you don't have installed, it's going to give you a message whether you wanted to install it. You need to go ahead and install that. So if you click on iSCSI, I already created 1 disk. We're going to create 3 more disks. Basic idea of creating the disk using iSCSI initiator is same whether I show you 3 or 4. So right click and create new iSCSI virtual disk. The wizard will open. So this is the Volume, what it consider volume is where you're creating the disk. Volume is actually part of, like, it's a big disk, and you're going to chunk that disk into smaller disks and present it to your nodes. So the free space left on this domain controller that I'm going to create disk is just 14 gigs. So I'm going to create like a 2 gig, and 1 gig hard disk. I need to leave some space for domain controller. This is only for demo purposes, but if you are working in an organization, they will let you know that it'll be a separate server and a lot more disk available. So let's go ahead and click next. This would be our log disk. I have already created the data disk. Excuse me. You can name however you want to, but I'm going to name it log disk. Click next, and the size would be 2 gig for me. Keep it fixed because the performance is really good if you keep it fixed. Usually in SAN you have ability to expand the disk, so right here would be your option if you're doing it on SAN. So click next. Now the existing iSCSI targets, these are the computers that you wanted to share this disk with. You can create a new iSCSI targets using this option and add the computers that you wanted to share this disk with. I already created the shared disk, and if you look at here, I have given node 1 and go all the way up here. That's node 2. So these are the two nodes that whatever the disk I'm going to create, I'm going to present this to those two nodes. So that's why you can choose it from here. You can make more targets. Let's say that you have this is going to be SQL Server, and another target would be for example SharePoint. You're creating SharePoint disks. You can create a separate target and add all those SharePoint servers in here and use that. Any disk that you create and you wanted to present to that target, you can choose that target here. So click next. Here's the summary that what we did. So go ahead and create that. Alright, this is completed. Let's go ahead and create a couple more disks. Next disk we're going to create is Quorum. And that is 1 gig. It's not gonna hold much information, so 1 gig is plenty. Next. The summary again. Click create. Close. Go ahead, create another one, and I'm going to go ahead and call that msdt underscore disk, and that would be 1 gig is plenty for that too. Share with your targets. Next, create. So once you share it, it will share it, but you have to assign those disks to your shared targets. So we're gonna go ahead and assign this iSCSI virtual disk to shared disk. This will do is actually go ahead and show that disk in the disk manager of node 1 and node 2, and from there we can bring those disks online and assign drive letters to them. Click next. Assign. So that's completed. Same with assign iSCSI virtual disk with the other disks. Completed. assign. So we have just actually completed this part, creating the shared disk. What we need to do is a little bit of configuration on node 1 and node 2. What I was telling you, that we need to go over there in disk manager and bring those disks online and assign drive ladders. Once we do that, then our cluster would be ready for validation. So let's do that. Go in node 1. Click on server manager. We're going to go ahead and click on iSCSI initiator just to refresh that is connected, and then we're going to go in disk manager and see if those disks have appeared here. If you're doing first time, just so that you know, you need to put your domain controller where you created the disk up here and click on quick connect, and it'll connect just like this, and that will tell you that it's connected and ready to receive the disks. So we're going to go ahead and cancel that and go to computer management. You could do it from start in computer management, or you could do it from here. So here is our disk management. Click on disk management, and let's see that if those disks appeared here. So if you can see, this is the disk I already created, and these are three disks that I just created, and they are offline. That's what I was telling you, that we need to bring them online and assign drive ladder. So the drive ladder E is already assigned. We're gonna go ahead and bring this disk online. And same with the others. I'm going to go ahead and refresh. Initialize disk. This is brand new in Windows 2012. You must initialize a disk before Logical Disk Manager can access it. Use the following partition style for the selected. You can use it as master boot record, but I'm going to keep it the same way. So it's gonna go ahead, and before that you had to go in every disk and actually initialize it. So as you can see right now, it's not allocated. What we're going to do is allocate the drive ladder, and click on simple volume. Next. That's good enough. Drive ladder, we're going to do L for this, for log. You can use it whatever you want to. NTFS is okay, so we're going to say log disk quick format. Click next, finish. As you can see, it's formatting, and it's gonna tell us after that that it's a healthy partition and ready to use. Same thing with this. Next, next, and we're gonna create that as an M for our MSDT, or let's do it Q first, quorum disk. Next. Alright, this one we're gonna do is our MSDT services. Click next. Alright, so we're done on node 1. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing on node 2. Just so that you know, if you do it on node 2, they will be all formatted and everything, but in 2012, for some reason, what happened is that when it brings online on node 2, sometimes it doesn't keep the same drive letter. For clustering services, shared disk, these drive letters needs to be exactly the same, just so that you know. Otherwise, we'll run into issue. So we're going to go ahead and see that if it keeps the drive letters. If it doesn't, then we need to change the drive letters like Q, M, E, F, or something like that. So let's go ahead and go in node 2. Server manager, we're going to do refresh so that it can get the latest and greatest about the disks. We'll go to tools and iSCSI initiator, refresh it. Okay, click OK. And then we're going to go ahead and manage, tools, computer management. Disks. Alright. So as you can see that right now they're offline, and we'll go ahead and bring them online and see if it keeps the drive letter same. The error is telling me that these disks are online somewhere else. Do you really want to bring online here? Which is okay, yes, we want to. Well, as you can see that the drive letters are not the same, just like we expected. So we're going to go ahead and change our drive letters. This would be our L. This is the quorum Q, and up here MSDT M. So we're going to go ahead and right click, change drive letter and path. We're going to click on change, and this needs to be L. Okay, yes. And this is our Q. And this is our M. Alright, everything looks fine. Now we have, let's go back to our notes. We have completed the shared disk. We have completed the private adapter. Now we are ready to actually validate our cluster. Once the validation is completed, then we're going to go ahead and create the cluster and create other services. So close this. You can use failover clustering feature either on VM2, node 2, or node 1. So I'm going to go back to node 1. and open failover clustering manager. Here's our failover cluster manager. You can click on validate configuration from here, or you can right click and validate configuration. So if you're doing the first time, please run full validation, and we might get some errors that we need to be corrected before we create the cluster, and that's very important. So these are the nodes. The good idea is actually you should browse that will tell you the connectivity as well. Node 1 and check. Yep, that's good. Node 2, you can run a cluster validation on multiple servers, even remote servers, if you would like to. Alright, click next. Run all tests recommended. That's good. Click next. Alright, this is just a little summary. We're gonna go ahead and run the validation. This may take a little time, and if there's error, I'll share with you in resolution, but I'm gonna go ahead and pause the video. I'll be back. You can look at the report, click on view report, but you can also scroll back here. There are a couple warnings. I would recommend that if you're working on production system, please look at the warning and try to resolve that issue before you create the cluster. But for this demo purposes, I really don't care about the warning. Up here, the validate network communication warning is that it's telling us that it's a single point failure. We haven't configured the heartbeat and everything. So in this demo, it's okay. But for production, it's not okay. So if you're doing on production, I would recommend that you go ahead and fix that and rerun the test, maybe just for the network communication, because you don't have to run the test full test every time. First time you do, but after that, when you see the warning and you fix the issue, you can go ahead and just rerun the test just to validate the network communication or any other warning that you got. So we're ready to create the cluster. You can start it now, or you can finish it, uncheck this bar, finish it, and then right click on the failover cluster and create the cluster. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this. Alright, this wizard is to create the cluster. So we're going to click don't show this message again. You may leave it the way it is. So the cluster name, if you go back to our notes, this is the cluster name that we're going to give Tech Brothers cluster. And here's the IP address that we need. That is 168.138. So click next. You can add all eligible storage to the cluster now, or you can come back to the cluster once it's created. You can add the disks later. So you have an option. I'm going to go ahead and add all eligible storage to the cluster now. Alright, so this is the summary. We're going to go ahead and click finish and take a look. Alright, our cluster is created. If you look at the summary, the cluster name is this. Current host name is node 2, and all that good stuff up here. The witness is disk cluster disk 1. If cluster disk 1, let's take a look on cluster disk 1. That's good, because that's what we wanted to. This is our quorum drive, so that's what we wanted to do. So let's look at the storage. As you can see, all the disks are online on this cluster. That's good. Let's look at the network. The network is up and running. So now, since our cluster is installed, this video really was all about installing the cluster on Windows Server 2012 R2. You can go ahead and create different roles. One role that you do need if you're installing SQL Server later on in this cluster is MSDTC role. So you can create it now. I might put a separate video. Thanks for watching. I hope this video helps. If you have any questions or queries, leave comments please, and stay tuned for the coming videos.